Hello, if you're new here, welcome, and if you're returning, welcome back. This is my long-awaited Doughnut plushie tutorial. It's taken a couple of months to put together. I hope it's worth the wait. You'll need 3 colours of your choice: gold and yellow for the donut, an icing colour and a sprinkles colour. I am using Callista 8-ply cotton yarn and Flinders 8-ply cotton yarn, as they have my preferred colours. I chose cotton as it's more durable, but you can use acrylic or wool of your choice. For your hook, I recommend a 3mm, and you'll need a yarn needle, polyfill stuffing and scissors. Because it is a smaller project, you may also use leftover yarn instead of polyfill fibres. There are 4 parts to this pattern: the top of the donut, the bottom of the donut, the icing and the sprinkles. We begin with the top of the donut. To start, chain 12, then slip stitch to make a circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now I'll slip stitch into the very first stitch here, being careful not to twist the chain. Then I'll chain 1 and begin row 1. Row 1 will be 12 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I will then slip stitch to end the round and chain 1 to begin the next. Row 2 will be a single crochet and then a single crochet increase. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Repeated all the way around 6 times, taking us to 18 stitches. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. At the end of this round, I will slip stitch into the first stitch of the round and chain 1, as I always do. However, you can skip that so that you avoid getting a seam. Slip stitch and chain 1 to begin row 3. Row 3 will be 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and then a single crochet increase, 3, and 4. Repeat this around the row 6 times, taking you to 24 stitches. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slip stitch to end the round and chain 1 to begin the next. Row 4 will be 3 single crochet, 1, 2, and 3, and then a single crochet increase, 4, 5. Repeat this around 6 times, taking you to 30 stitches. 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch to end the round and chain 1 to begin the next. Row 5 will be 4 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a single crochet increase. 5 and 6. Repeat this around 6 times, taking you to 36 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up or drop a comment. Want to see more of my videos? Hit the subscribe button below. Slip stitch to end the round and chain 1 to begin the next. Row 6 will be 36 single crochet all the way around. So no increases. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and continue that around for 36 stitches. And that will be row 6. Rows 7 and 8 will also be 36 single crochet, so you will not do any increases on those. Slip stitch to end the round, chain 1 to begin the next. So this is row 7, where I'll do another 36 single crochet with no increases. You may notice your donut is starting to take form of a sombrero. This is what you want to be happening, as that gives us that half donut shape. .36 stitches. Now I'll do a slip stitch and chain 1. That was row 7 finished. Now we'll do row 8 to finish the top of the donut. So 36 single crochet all the way around also, with no increases. I do find some cotton yarn can be splitty, which is why I've had to redo some of my stitches, otherwise they can pucker a bit. This is finishing up row 8, where I will do a slip stitch and then tie off, because this is part 1 all finished. Depending on how you've held it, you may have a little dome shape with the hole cut out, or if you flip it in like that, you'll see we're starting to get our donut shape. It's just all hollowed out and only one side. So that is the donut top, all finished off. What you'll do now is cut a tail. This tail does not need to be very long, as we'll do a long tail on the donut bottom to sew the two parts together. So this is the donut top, all finished off. Part 2 is the other side of the donut. We'll begin by slip stitching into the first chain from the start. Be sure to start with the same side towards you, otherwise half your donut will be different. So I'll begin by doing 12 single crochet into this first row. Slip stitch into the first, trying to keep the tails out of the way. Pull that starting tail tight, and then use another finger to hold them out of the way. I'll do a single crochet into that same space to count as 1 single crochet, and then a single crochet in each of the chains the rest of the way around. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. As tricky as this is, I have found that it's still easier than trying to sew these two pieces together. But if you find this is too much, you may want to try making two of the top of the donut and then sew them together. We repeat the same pattern as the top of the donut. So we'll do for row 2, a single crochet, and then a single crochet increase into the next stitch, repeated 6 times, taking us to 18 stitches. 3, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Continue as you had before. If you were doing slip stitch and chain 1 to end the row, then do the same here, otherwise skip and continue on to the next row. Row 3 will be 2 single crochet, 1 and 2, and then a single crochet increase, 3 and 4. Repeat this count of 4 around 6 times, taking us to 24 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Two. It looks like I've dropped a stitch at some point, so I'm going to do my increase here anyway, and then add another increase in the next row. Though I do usually find that I haven't dropped a stitch, I've just miscounted somewhere in this other row. We'll continue on to row 4, where we'll do 3 single crochet, 1, 2, 3, and then a single crochet increase, 4 and 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I can see at this point I have dropped a stitch in a previous row. So I'm going to do single crochet increases here, and then a single crochet, and then a single crochet increase. Now my row counts will be back to how they should be, where I have just completed 30 stitches in this row, and I'll continue on to row 5. Row 5 will be 4 single crochet and then a single crochet increase. 2, 3, and 4. 5, 6. We'll repeat this around 6 times, taking you to 36 stitches. 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6. So now we're up to row 6 of part 2, where we'll do a row of 36 single crochet with no increases. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way around here to 36 stitches. We will not do a row 7 and 8 like last time, because otherwise the donut will end up a little too full. Once we finish row 6, we have finished part 2, and we'll be able to stuff and sew close the donut. I prefer to sew close the donut before making the icing, so I can ensure that the icing is the right size and shape, and then attach the icing to the complete donut. So we'll slip stitch and then tie off to finish off part 2. So this tail we do want a bit longer than last time, because you will use this to sew the parts together. You can see we essentially have a yo-yo diablo, where it is 2 cone shapes joined together at the short point, which create the hole in the middle. So all you will do is flip those parts together and then flip the opposite ends together. And to begin with, it will look a little bit wonky and it won't look like it's going to make a nice donut, but once you have sewn it together and stuffed it, it'll take its shape quite nicely. So we'll grab this long tail, and you want it to be about 3 times the circumference of the donut. So I just wrap it around just like this, nice and loose, 2 and 3 times. And even then I still give myself a little extra tail because it's easier than trying to sew in extra ends later. Before we sew the donut closed, I am going to sew in these other ends. I won't do it too tidily, as they will be inside of the stuffing. It's worthwhile securing them so the donut is less likely to fall apart later. So we'll start with this one here and sew them all in. Again, not being too fussy with how I do it, as long as I'm not having it show on the front side, this is good enough for me. Now that those are all hidden away, as I said, doesn't matter if they're a little bit sticky outy, as long as they're not showing on the outside. We'll now take this long tail and our yarn needle, thread it through, and we'll begin sewing the edges closed. Fold these edges over, line it up, and because there's 36 stitches on each side, I'm going to insert on one stitch, insert it the same on the other side, and pull it through tight. And I'm going to repeat this most of the way around before I start stuffing, so I can make it nice and secure. And I will continue this most of the way around. Continue sewing around until you have an inch or so left. You will use this to stuff the donut before sewing it closed. I just have some hypoallergenic polyfill fibre, but you could also use leftover yarn from other projects. Because it is a ring, you could put some through on either side, but I found just forcing it all the way around gave me the most consistent look on the previous ones that I've made. If it's going to be something like a keychain, you do want it pretty dense, so that way it's got a bit of weight to it. There we go. So now I'm going to finish closing up this hole. I'm going to put my finger over the top of the stuffing just like this while I'm finishing it off, so that I don't pull the stuffing through as I work. There we go. Donut all finished off. So if you were doing a simple cinnamon donut, you could leave it like this, but because we want to add icing, we'll go on to part 3. I'll just sew in this end. Now that this is the side that is visible, I'll need to be a bit more careful. What I am going to do is move where I'm sewing in to this side, as this is the side I plan on attaching the icing to, and that way I even cover over this thread also. Cutting this one off nice and close, just in case I accidentally attach the icing to the wrong side later. Part 3 is pretty quick, as we'll be making the icing. You can be a bit creative on this, as I just wing the last row with a mix of stitches to make the melty edges. You'll start by chaining 18. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then slip stitch in that first chain to create a ring. Chain 1 to begin row 1. Do 18 single crochet where we do a single crochet in each chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 17, 18. Slip stitch in the first single crochet and then chain 1 to begin row 2. Row 2 will be 2 single crochet, 1, 2, and then a single crochet increase, 3 and 4. Repeat this around 6 times. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Slip stitch to end the round, and then we'll begin row 3. In row 3 we'll do 3 single crochet, 2, 3, and a single crochet increase, 4 and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Repeat this a total of 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Slip stitch to end the round, and then we'll do one more row for this icing. Row 4, I freeform a little to keep the icing unique, using a mix of single crochet, half double crochet, and double crochet to make the edges drip. If you're not confident doing this yet, you may follow these instructions. There will be some increases using a mix of stitches. For example, I do a double crochet with a half double crochet in the same space. Please see the text on screen for a full rundown. A comma indicates a new stitch, with the brackets around those which share a space like an increase. The first stitch will be a single crochet, followed by a single crochet. Then we'll do a half double crochet increase, where there are 2 half double crochet in the one space, followed by a double crochet increase, where there's 2 double crochet sharing the one space. You can see that creates a bit of a drip away from the center, and then I'll bring it back down over the next few stitches. The next stitch will be a double crochet, followed by a single crochet, followed by a single crochet. The next will be a half double crochet increase, which are 2 half double crochet in the one space, followed by a single crochet, followed by a single crochet. The next stitch will be a single crochet and a half double crochet in the one space, acting as an increase. Then the next space will be a half double crochet with a double crochet in the one space, followed by a double crochet increase, so that will be 2 double crochet in the one space. The next will be a half double crochet with a single crochet in the same space, followed by a single crochet, and then a single crochet. The next 2 spaces will have 3 stitches in each. The first will be a half double crochet, then a double crochet, and then a double crochet, before you move on to the next space. Next will be a double crochet, then a half double crochet with a single crochet, all in the one space, before moving on to the next, which will be a simple single crochet. The next space will be a single crochet, and the next space will also be a single crochet. The next space will be a half double crochet increase, followed by a half double crochet increase, then the next space will be a single crochet, and the next one a single crochet. Next you will do a half double crochet with a double crochet in the one space. And the next space will be a double crochet with a half double crochet. Finish off the round with 3 single crochet across the next 3 stitches. Then slip stitch to end the round and tie off. So by doing a mix of half double crochet, double crochet and single crochet, I get these little blobby out bits. So it's not a circle anymore. So what we'll do, much like we did with the last tail on the donut, I'm going to take this long tail and I'm going to wrap it around once, twice. Just for good measure, we'll go a 3rd time around and then I'll cut the tail. We'll use the tail to attach to the donut once it's got its sprinkles on it. Part 4 is all sewing. So you can put your hook aside. Prepare the sprinkles yarn by cutting a nice long length of yarn and thread the needle. Start by threading the yarn in place on the back of the icing. So this I would count as the front, just like on the donut section, because we have the nice tidy V's. So I'm going to just thread the needle, pull it all the way through, leave a little bit of a tail, and then I'm going to go back over the top of it, which effectively makes a knot. Before you start doing this, you will want to have a bit of a plan on how you want it to look. Are you planning on doing sprinkles on just half of it, as like what you buy at the shops where they have just the sprinkles here? Or are you planning on writing a word or a name maybe? If so, take some time to draw up roughly what you would like and then begin. So the sprinkles you don't want to be too long and you want to have it pretty consistent across it. So I do it roughly every 2 gaps, and I'll bring it back through. And there's my first sprinkle. You want to make it pretty random looking, and random doesn't look like random, so you will be needing to go against standard practices for keeping it tidy, and sometimes have them going in the same direction, and then sometimes going in opposite directions. As always, be prepared to undo it all and start again, because sometimes it just doesn't work out quite right, particularly if you're writing a word or name. If you are doing a word or name, you may want to make it a little bit deeper than just these 4 rows, and any capitals you do, you'll want to line up with where the longer drippy bits are, so you've got more of a canvas to work with. So you can see I'm starting to get these sprinkles going on, and on the back is pretty tidy, and you want to keep it fairly flush so there's no threat of these starting to peel up later. Continue this process until you're happy with the finish. You could also add a little face to this by using safety button eyes, or by embroidering some eyes on, so that way he's got a cute happy face. So once you're happy with them, all that you will do is, just like at the start, thread the yarn through, being careful not to get tangled with tail yarn. Pull this one through, loop it back over itself to create a knot or a lock. Thread it through again. And then I will cut off the tail. Once you're happy with your sprinkles, you'll tie off on the back of the icing. Then prepare to sew the icing onto the donut. I start from the center and then do the outer row. So here is my donut from earlier. I could try and use this tail, but I think by the time I've got the needle length, it'll be quite difficult to go all the way around here. So I'm just going to quickly sew this tail in. Again, focusing on sending it through to the back. That way I don't need to be as careful. Okay, so turn this one over, grab my exceedingly long tail, and put my yarn through. Okay, so as I said before, we're actually going to pin the middle in first before we do the outside, and that just allows us to ensure that it doesn't end up wonky in the middle and stretched out. So to start, I will thread the needle through over the back, pretty loosely, just so that it's pinned in place until I'm in that center row. Just like that. Be careful not to pull it too tightly through, as you'll bunch it up. If you do, just pull it out across again. Lock it in place, the quick stitch. And now we'll flip it over, and essentially what I want to do is, because this is 18 stitches, I'll attach it onto the row of 18 stitches. So I'll begin by looping the needle into this stitch here, which you can immediately see this starts fitting it on. It is a little bit fiddly while you're doing this row, and if you do find that it's very difficult, it's one of the reasons I suggest maybe attaching the icing to... Oh, of course I've managed to get one of the sprinkles. So I'm just going to pull them all the way through, just like that. Now the sprinkle's fine again. So keeping it all nicely lined up. Roughly every 1 stitch. And a lot of this I tend to do by feel, so I'm trying to have it visible for you on screen. Keeping to that row of 18, I've come across 1 more stitch, and now I'll bring it back up through to the next stitch on the base. As you saw in my first one, be careful of your sprinkles, as you don't want to cut them in half with the icing yarn. Or maybe you do. I'm not your boss. Bring that one back through again, and then bring it back up into the next stitch on the base. My yarn keeps getting caught on my tiny table. It'll come back down one stitch over into the same row and pull that all the way through into the next stitch, and so on and so forth until you're all finished. If you do have some gappiness along here because of the chain, you could go back over with the long tail and stitch some more stitches through here, and that will fill in the gaps, but I'm okay with a little bit of holiness sitting along in there. Now I'm going to do just like before, how we started this, and I'm going to just thread this along the back, just picking up a couple of the threads to keep it nice and tidy. So we're back at the edge of the icing. And then I'm going to bring it through between the stitches. There's a couple different ways that you can attach things. You could choose to send it straight down and bring the yarn down like this, but that will make the edges a bit softer. I want to emphasize the edges around on the single crochet, so I'm going to go into the next stitch across. And then I want to actually stretch it out a little bit. I don't want it to be too close to the front. I'm going to bring it into this stitch and bring it out again. Bring it back up into the very edge of that last row. Bring it into this one. This is still single crochet, so it should go into the same row. Back out one. Through the edge again. Starting to get into half double crochet, so I'm actually going to go up one row so we can start stretching some of the goopiness out. And this is where you may have some trickery if you have done some writing, so just be careful and conscious of that as you're attaching this. But it will give you more of an icing look rather than just a coloured blob on top. Or I hope it does anyway. I think it does. And just repeat this all the way around until you're finished. You may turn this into a keychain simply by getting a keychain accessory and sewing it on place. If you can only find a key ring rather than a ring with a chain or a gaiter clip, you may just make a rectangle of single crochet and loop that on to attach to it. I've used this same pattern or similar to it to make a pizza bagel as a little fan art for a fantastic game called the Arcade Spirits that I've been playing, and it's been holding up really well just using this cotton yarn and a keyring. Last few stitches here. Now we're back where we started. Before you tie off, just do a quick check over to make sure that you haven't missed a bit. Confirm that you're happy with how it looks. If you need to undo it, you should be able to unpick that last row of sewing and then try it again. So I'm really happy with that. We've got our little blobby bits that stick down lower, and then some of the bits that are nice and tidy along the edge, and our sprinkles down the side. So I'm just going to bring the needle back through. It's a little bit hard to show in the video, but I'm bringing the needle up through here and it is attaching into the blue yarn, and I'll bring it up through the top. Lock it in place just this once. Bring it back down through the bottom, and then I'm just going to thread it out through the side like that. So I've got a nice long tail, so even if it does wriggle a bit, it's not going to come free. And I'll grab my scissors, cut the tail, and there we go. We have a donut. Look at that little cutie. All finished off. Thanks for all the support. We're so close to 100 subscribers. Can you believe it? I hope to see you around again. Bye!